Hey horror fans, welcome back to Room 237 and continuing my extreme marathon with, I guess you could call this extreme, at least for its time. Pretty hard, at least for me, hard to get a hold of. Legendary, notorious film. If it's not extreme, it's definitely notorious. 1977's Last House on Dead End Street. Yes, this is a bootleg. There are some versions that you can get. I guess I can't even remember the name of the production company, but they're kind of pricey. And I guess if you get the UK version, it's like severely cut. Could be wrong on that. But this version that I have, it's the most uncut that exists. Because originally it was almost 3 hours, but most of that is completely lost forever. But this is a really interesting film, not just what's on it, but the story behind it, because it has a pretty interesting release history. It was originally released under the title The Funhouse, but of course, in the 70s, a lot of exploitation films were cashing in on The Last House on the Left success. That's even why it has that tagline. It's only a movie. And they called it Last House on Dead End Street. Which, I mean, think of how many movies back then had Last House on it. Even the Midnight Train Murders had 3 or 4 alternate titles that all had Last House in it. Bay of Blood was considered shortly after Last House's release. It was called Last House 2. But this, what I was expecting and what I got were two very different things, but I still enjoyed this film quite a bit. The story is very simple. It's basically this petty criminal. He's just gets out of jail after spending a year in jail for drug charges. And when he gets out, he lashes out against society by making these snuff films, or making a snuff film. And that's pretty much it. Obviously, I'll get more into it. Nowadays, when you buy the DVD, well, actually, all DVDs, it has the actual credits on it. But it has the original print, so the credits are all pseudonyms. No person's name in the credits is their real name. Even Roger Watkins, who's the lead star, lead actor, writer, producer, and director, has 4 different credits in the opening and closing credits. And because of that, a lot of people thought this was real when it first came out. It was another one of those cannibal holocaust type films. Not that it's not found footage. It doesn't go towards August Underground territory. Even when it does show the film, like the film within the film. But the gore effects are very well done for its budget. It was made for, I believe, like $3,000. Yeah, $3,000. And, well, I will say the blood effects don't look that real. It's that really thick, vibrant red, almost paint looking blood that the 70s and mostly Italian films were using. But the gore, like the guts and intestines that were used, those look pretty phenomenal. And since everyone went by pseudonyms, and there was no evidence of, like Roger Watkins being credited as the lead character, Terry Hawkins, he's credited as Stephen Morrison. Since there's no record of Stephen Morrison, not necessarily his character, but other characters, people thought they were actually murdered in this. And no one knew who made this film up until around the 2000s, like well after the 2000s. I believe Roger Watkins actually came out in 2000. In the year 2000, he publicly came forward and confirmed who he was and what he did. But this is definitely an exploitation film if I've ever seen one. And the reason, or one thing I like about this print and how it's the original print, is it literally has the cracks and pops and all the scratches and grain in the film. It is very degraded. I love that look. This is probably the harshest I've ever seen. You know, you can say that about old DVDs of Chainsaw Massacre or Sleepaway Camp. This is degraded. This looks like there's literally holes and dots and lines scattered throughout every shot. When we actually see what they're filming, it's silent, but you just hear like the rolling of the reels. I love that effect. One thing that does get a bit really distracting would be that the like Italian films, the dubbing, there was post-production dubbing, and there's a very harsh lag in it, so the whole film, the audio is off, and it's more distracting than the most obvious of Italian films. And I have to say, Roger Watkins, he looks like a mix of Bill Hader and Rainn Wilson. So imagine like Bill Hader or Dwight from The Office being this leather jacket, long-haired, cackling serial killer. But, so, on to the story. He gets out of jail, and he wants to make a movie, and he's already an amateur filmmaker, but he previously made some softcore porno films, but he was unable to sell them. You can't really get financing for a new project. It's also kind of I don't want to say social commentary or social satire. It's very meta. There's like a feel of meta, because he even says how audience nowadays, they want something more extreme, they want something more hardcore, they're very hard to please. And like, this is way more I was gonna say this is way more hardcore than Last House on the Left. It's definitely gorier. I wouldn't say it's as disturbing. I didn't really find Last House that disturbing at all. Probably because I saw the remake first, which was really stupid. But even though I like the remake, so he's able to get funding through. Well, it's through that realization that he realizes he wants to make a real snuff film. And he finds this abandoned college that he's going to shoot it in. He gets funding from this openly gay CEO of a company who doesn't know what he's doing. And then he gets a group of people, this one girl and her friend, this other guy, and the cameraman who used to be a porn star himself. I don't know if the actor was, but the character was. And the girls, they always wear these translucent masks, kind of like Alice Sweet Alice, which came out a year before this. Which actually, I think this was actually filmed. Yeah, Watkins got the idea from a biography of the Manson family, which is pretty evident while you're watching it. It was shot in 1972. So it took 5 years for this movie to come out. It was screened under the title Cuckoo Clocks of Hell. It played at the 73 Cannes Festival. And then it was pretty much shelved until 1977. Yeah, it was 3 hours. And so pretty much over 2.5 hours of this original film is lost forever, which sucks. But I would say I kind of feel the same as everyone else. I know I got to do a better job at talking about the film and going through the plot, not interjecting stuff. I realize that, but from what I've seen, the comic consensus is the first half of the film is kind of a drag. It feels like it takes a while to get to it, but once it actually gets to the main point, it's actually pretty well done, and I really liked it a lot. But yeah, that first half does kind of take a while. But yeah. So their first scene is they lure this blind transient, and they hold him down, and he strangles him. And then the guy Terry, who's the Bill Hader looking guy, played by Watkins. Which they wear translucent masks. He wears like a Greek tragedy mask. Almost looks like a Greek statue. It gets kind of poetic and sort of the things they say are kind of ominous sounding. I actually don't know if I'd go that deep, but we do see that there is this one scene that goes on for a while. There's this pornographic director who, there's like a sex party going on, and he whips his wife as she has, I don't know if I'd call it blackface as we know it, but it is solid black makeup with white, and he just whips her in front of a enthusiastic, turned on crowd. If I got this correctly, Terry wants to introduce the film to him about possibly, I guess, buying it. I think that's what it was. But he just sees the guy's wife there. He seduces her. He tells her, she says, the film looked so real. And he tells her it was real. She's shocked. Then he rapes her. And then pretty much the rest of the film is he kidnaps pretty much the people that we've seen throughout the film. The gay financer, the guy and his wife, and I don't really want to say artsy, but there's a lot of really cool shots in here, because when they shoot their film, a lot of the shots are like it almost looks surreal and dreamlike. Solid black backgrounds with their masks, and just really, the score sort of sounds just like that kind of, I don't know what you would call it, like a piano crawl, a really loud piano, like sort of like Silent Night, Deadly Night, or just really like Chainsaw Massacre, ominous kind of sounds. But like the woman they have, she's tied down. He grabs a hacksaw. He severs like mid shin down. She passes out. They wake her up with smelling salts. And then he just eviscerates her, and they pull out her guts and organs. Looks great. The blood spurting, yeah, it is that really vibrant red, tomato pasty looking fake blood. but the guts and the intestines and shit look great, especially for a $3,000 film. And even though the whole second half does feel kind of surreal and dreamlike, the acting is another issue. It is very hammy. A lot of things don't really make sense. I don't think it's supposed to. Roger Watkins, there's even one part where he beats the pornographic director up, and he just goes on this long tirade of, I'm directing this fucking movie. I'm directing this fucking movie. This is the second time I think I've said this recently. I don't remember what the last review I said this, but he pretty much goes Tommy Wiseau. I said that for some movie recently about an actor going Tommy Wiseau. I don't remember which one it was. But he kind of does that here as well. And yeah, just solid black backgrounds. When we see what the cameras see, it's just that silence with the rolling of the reels. I love that. Whether it be the ominous, really, I keep saying ominous, but that's not what it is. Alarming sounding, just these weird sound effects used for score, like Chainsaw Massacre, or just that loud kind of piano jamming music. Fuck, how did they kill that other guy? Wait, well, before they kill her, they brand her chest with a symbol I've seen before. I'll be right back, hold on. I'm pretty sure the symbol is the exact same. I could have swore it was on this. Okay, I guess I don't remember where I saw it. Because I have a copy of Eraserhead with a bunch of weird symbols on it, but it's weird symbol. It's like a cross, but it has like a squiggly tail on it. They brand that on her. And that's another long dreamlike scene with masks, black background, spotlights. You get a lot of shots like this and like that, which I think look really nice. And I like how, I don't know if it counts as a solar flare, but you get like just the rings of the lights that you would see in like older, lower quality films. I love that look too. And perhaps the weirdest scene would be when the openly gay, I keep saying openly gay, I don't know why. His name is Steve, I'm just calling him Steve. When Steve awakens and it's his turn, one, they had the blind guy they killed earlier, and kind of, children shouldn't play with dead things, kind of poor looking zombie effects. He's not a zombie, he's dead, trying to make him look rotting. But they chase him around a little bit, and he comes to this one room, and this one guy's holding him down, and this one girl walks up to him, and I think it's Watkins, is holding these goat hooves. Like, he's standing behind her holding these goat hooves above her head, so she looks like that. She undoes her shirt, then takes her shirt off, undoes her pants, and has a goat hoof down there. And they try to make Steve fillet it. So you get that long, awkward scene. But then, you know, he just gets a drill to the eyeball. That, I would say that's a poor effect. Because it literally looks like, again, solid black. It just looks like there's an eyeball here and a drill. Barely looks like an eyeball. And then we get the final shot of them just one by one walking towards the spotlights away into the darkness. And spoiler alert, the voiceover says everyone's been caught, apprehended, and they're all in a penitentiary. Yes, this is low quality. Yes, the acting is cheesy and hammy. Well, one, I love the quality. I absolutely love it. I love when films have the lines and the pops and the holes and the grit and the grain in the film. I love that look. I like that you can hear the reels and the cameras. I love that old school effect. I love the gore effects. Yeah, they're not as often as you would expect, especially for a movie like this, or with a story like this. The first half is a bit of a drag. Some scenes do go on longer than they should, like the scene with the whip, or when it's showing some of Terry's older stag films, as he calls them. But once he's actually starting to make his movie, and we get into the second half, it is, for me, a very enjoyable exploitation film. And I can see why it was considered pretty extreme back then. I mean, this was 3 years before Cannibal Holocaust. Not that it's up to that level at all, but... And what's even more interesting is just the release history behind it. The different names it was shot under and released as, and everyone being under pseudonyms and assuming it was real and all those people were dead. No one really knowing who made the film for another 23 years. Like, it was this like urban legend of who created this film up until 2000. And I gotta say, I do like the title. I like this cover. Of all the films that have sort of ripped off Last House on the Left, whether it be concept or title, it was usually title. This is probably the one that deserved it the most. As I said at the beginning of the film, what I thought it was and what I got were two different things. I thought it was going to be more of a house at the end of the street where it's just like this serial killer abducting people, bringing them back to his house. Shooting a snuff film by himself. I figured it was going to be more of like a 70s version of August Underground, but with more of a plot and like a traditional narrative. But I still liked what I got. Yeah, I love this cover too. But yeah, once you get into the second half, it's a pretty fun exploitation film. And I really enjoyed it. But that is Last House on Dead End Street. Thank you for watching.